Yeah? So on behalf of the CPFSA, I want to welcome you all to today's proceedings. It promises to be informative, it promises to be engaging, it promises to be fun. Yeah? So lively up yourselves, smile a while, yeah? And please be ready to engage, be ready to be informed by our presenters. I'm going to yield as I ask the Director of Operations at the Dispute Resolution Foundation, Mrs. Cheryl Taylor, to bring us greetings. Let's welcome Mrs. Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those in cyberspace as well. I can only hear you going crazy over there. All right. It is indeed my absolute pleasure to bring greetings this morning, and I'm really happy to be here and a part of this initiative. It would really be remiss of me not to laud the work of the CPFSA and how instrumental they have been in bringing together key stakeholders to join forces under the Anti-Bullying Technical Working Group, to which the DRF is a committed member. Today, we participate in the second of a series of planned workshops aimed at strengthening stakeholders' capacity to alleviate the negative effects of bullying on our nation's children. Guided by the theme, One Kind Word and Action, we seek to shed some light, particularly on victims to systems, consequences to bullying and cyberbullying. The intent is to explore a variety of methods and strategies proven successful to reducing or even eliminating bullying in schools. There have been broad or longitudinal studies on the incidence of bullying in several countries, to include our very own. Looking at some of the consequences of bullying, research have shown that children who are frequently bullied are nearly 3 times more likely to feel like an outsider at school and more than twice as likely to miss school as those who are not frequently bullied. Children who are bullied are around twice as likely to feel lonely, to be unable to sleep at night, and to have contemplated suicide, as opposed to those who are not bullied. Contrary to popular belief that only victims of bullying suffer, the fact is we all suffer. The victims suffer, the bullies suffer, the bystanders suffer, and society at large suffers. With respect to the victim, bullying can lead to long-term damage to self-esteem, physical injury, social and emotional problems, and even death. Children and adolescents who are bullied are at an increased risk of mental health problems, including depression, anxiety, headaches, and sometimes they do have difficulty adjusting in schools. For administrators, we've seen this. With respect to the perpetrator, researchers have found that 6 out of 10 kids identified as bullies in high school are convicted of a crime by the time they reach the age of 24. For the bystander, children who repeatedly witness bullying may suffer more physical and emotional trauma than those who have more limited exposure to bullying. And that trauma may have a lifelong influence, according to Penn State researchers. Children who witness bullying may have difficulty acquiring a sense of safety and affiliation with others, both of which are crucial to human needs. Bullying can cause people who witness it to demonstrate physical stress symptoms of increased heart rate and perspiration, as well as high levels of self-reported trauma, even years after the event has taken place. How it affects the society? Bullying is linked to many negative outcomes, including impact on mental health, substance abuse, crime, violent behavior, and suicide. So what needs to be done? just to reinforce the recommendations of the 2016 and the 2018 reports of the UN Secretary General to the UN General Assembly on protecting children from bullying, I'll just again reiterate 4 of those. 1, ensure that legislation is in place to underpin policies to prevent and respond to school violence and bullying in all its forms. 2, train and support teachers to prevent and respond to school violence and bullying. The DRF encourages and promotes whole school approaches that engage the wider community to include the parents, the teachers, the students, other school staff, and local authorities. 3, provide information and support to children to enable them to speak up and seek support. 4th, and lastly, establish child-friendly and gender-sensitive reporting, complaint and counseling mechanism, and restorative approaches. In closing, we can agree that bullying is not a new phenomenon. However, its prevalence demands action, intentional, sustainable action. Parents, students, school-based professionals, researchers, or whatever capacity you may be seated here today or joining us online, the implementation and success of this multi-thronged approach to bullying prevention lies with us. It starts with you and me. It starts with us understanding the fundamentals of effective conflict resolution, the respect, affirmation, cooperation, confidentiality, neutrality, and effective communication. Bullying has no place in our home, school, church, place of work, or community, and Jamaica land we love. We all have a part to play. Let us work together to put an end to bullying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. I tell you, Mrs. Taylor and I go way back, you know. Way back. I used to be a dean of discipline, and there are almost 140 deans of discipline across the island. I say a few in the audience now. I won't call their names, but deans of discipline do special work. And as Mrs. Taylor mentioned, she is the director of operations at the DRF. And the DRF does lots of work with the deans of discipline, particularly in high schools. But primary schools as well are important. That is where the seeds are planted. That is where we have to lay that foundation. So primary schools, please contact the DRF. Yeah? So we have presentations. We have persons who are going to be joining us. We have several panelists who will be joining us here today. And this is why I say it's going to be very informative. We're going to have some giveaways. So I hope you're taking notes when Mrs. Taylor was speaking. She gave some very vital information that can be used within your schools and in your organizations. And when our panelists speak as well, when they do their presentations, we're going to have some giveaways based on those presentations. So those here and those online, take your notes, write down, not just because you want a little giveaway, but because it is going to be informative, because it will inform you in your personal life and in your professional lives. Yeah? So the first panel, I'm going to yield so that our moderator will be able to introduce the first panel. The moderator is Mrs. Glacia Reed-Smith, who is the Manager for Research and Development here at the CPFSA. Mrs. Reed-Smith.
Good morning, everyone. It's an excellent morning, and I'm glad to see all of you that are currently in attendance, both physically and online. And to begin the first session of our Anti-Bullying Technical Working Group's second workshop, I would like to introduce our panel of experts. On our list is Miss Anna J. Roberts. She is a social worker at the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, and she leads the Ananda Alert Unit that is housed in the National Children's Registry, and she is the secretariat that is in response of children missing in Jamaica. She currently holds a Bachelor's of Science in Social Work at the University of the West Indies and a Master's in Development Studies at the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute for Social and Economic Studies. She has 10 years of experience working in the child protection sector, and she's worked with hundreds of families and experienced situations in which children are missing, and has provided dedicated support to these families with an environment of compassion and support so that they are able to thrive and become resilient. Please welcome Miss Anna J. Roberts as she joins us on the platform. This is followed up by Dr. Charlene Cordesai. She is currently the Child Protection Specialist at UNICEF Jamaica. She has worked extensively on issues related to human development for more than 20 years. Her work has primarily focused on children at risk, parenting, maternal and child health, early childhood development, disability, and violence prevention. Through this work, she has an opportunity to contribute to research and policy in childhood development and parenting in the Latin American and Caribbean region. She currently holds a PhD in psychology, and her doctoral thesis explored how children, families, and neighborhood characteristics influences their coping with community violence in Jamaica. She also has a Master's of Science in Sociology and a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. Please welcome Dr. Cordesai to our panel. And lastly, but not least, hopefully he gets here in time, is Dr. Herbert Gale. Dr. Herbert Gale. He is a senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Mona, who is currently serving as the head of the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work. He is a trained social anthropologist that specializes in social violence, with 28 years of experience living and studying youth gangs and transnational criminal organization in over 17 countries within the Caribbean, Central America, the US, Europe, and Asia. He has impacted policies in 3 Caribbean states to reduce social violence and worked with 6 international law firms to reduce the deportation of violent actors to Jamaica. He is an expert in methodology and he is trained in all 4 approaches. This is qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, and participatory and action research. He is an advocate of Black gender partnership and has been a keynote speaker at least to 16 International Women's Days events, and he has stressed the need for women to enter politics to provide a cognitive balance to the current lopsided frame of male political leadership. He currently works with and is the chairman of Fathers Incorporated, as well as Children's First, and he sits on various commissions, task force, and advisory councils aimed at national and regional development. Please welcome Dr. Herbert Gale to our panel. All right. So our first panel presentation will be from Dr. Herbert Gale, and I'm giving him a chance to sit. And this will follow by Dr. Charlene Cordesai and then Ms. Anna J. Roberts. And the topic of our presentations for this morning is focusing on victims to systems, and our expert panel will give us a riveting discussion on the issues at hand. Thank you.
All right, let me say good morning, everyone. Wow, Traffic and no breakfast. Morning, everyone. Morning, family. Morning. All right, good. So it's interesting. As I walked in this morning, I said, you know, I am going to take the risk of being honest with you. Why? Because I have family here. I look around and I know some of you, so you'll protect me after I'm gone, right? Because I'm going to be talking to you very honestly from a scientific point of view, which people nowadays hate. What people like now is influencers, right? And the stories that you can tell, and you know, everybody's a victim now. I was watching a documentary about rich people now claiming they're victims, right? Yes, it's the new thing. You're just not rich enough to know about it. So, I want to bring to you about 3 or 4 points very quickly. The first one is, as we move through life, as we evolve as humans, right? As we evolve through as humans, there is a discussion now going on among violence experts and others as to how far do we stretch masculinity, right? Have you seen it? Okay? And people are genuinely scared at the direction we're going. So I want to take you back to the fact that we're now 8 billion people, right? You're aware? You can talk back to me, even though I only have 10 minutes, but you can talk back to me. We only have 10 minutes, but you can talk. We're now 8 billion, right? And therefore, we now have a series of 8 billion discussions. And I'm part of it internationally, right? So people all over the world will be having discussions with me about where do you think we are going between 8 and 9 billion, will we get there, yada, 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 right? And one of the core things is masculinity. So let's begin from the sperm tracker study, right? You're not aware of there's a sperm tracker study? Okay, I'll tell you what's going on. So in the last 40 years, we've been tracking sperm count. There's actually a sperm count study. And what we're finding in the first 20 years since the 1980s, leading up to the new millennium, we had a 1.2% decline in sperm count per year. Okay? And between 2000 and now, we have a 1.615% reduction in your sperm count. Now, take this very seriously because masculinity is connected to your sperm count. Masculinity is not just a social thing that we bash and go toxic. That explains it. It's a little bit more complicated than the campaigns you are seeing every day, okay? We're clear? Because at the end of the day, we have to maintain the capacity to impregnate women. And the extrapolation shows that within the next 50 years, many of us as men will need medical help in order to impregnate our female partners. And I think you need to take a deeper look at everything you do and say, every toxic masculinity campaign you get into, all of these things you get into, catcalling and all these fancy things, yes, you need to stop to say, where does one end and the other start? So what have they also noticed? They've also noticed that since the obvious reduction in sperm count, girls are bullying boys. Take your time. Take your time. When girls begin to bully boys, yeah, if you're sleeping, wake up. It's no longer just a social issue. It's neurobiologically anthropological. Let me take my time. Let me take my time. Because the human species does not exist in the social world we see online. It does not. Nor does it exist in biology. It exists in the intersection between biology and our social life. Are we clear? And that is why human beings are neurobiological, right? And social all at once. So if you set up a pie chart and you do 2 circles, we live in the intersection, and basically 87% of what you see is what you get. Are we clear so far? Quick neuroscience class. Stay with me. So when girls begin to bully boys, then scientists, including myself, begin to say, are we becoming too PC? Are we becoming so soft that the human, our own instinct within our DNA begin to act? Are we clear? You have children at prep schools, ask them who bullied them. You actually think I'm joking. Ask them who's taking their lunch money. Girls, come here, boy. Go and buy, I'm telling you real things that we've been studying. Go and buy, give them $10 and go in the line, buy $100, $200 worth of stuff. A girl is bullying your son. Stop laughing. Why are you laughing, bro? Why are you laughing? It's serious stuff. When these things begin to happen, thank you, when these things begin to happen, you can see that you have to treat it in the same way you treat catcalling. When is it a compliment? When is it catcalling? Don't we have to struggle through that? Huh? Because it is catcalling mostly in the days right leading up to your period, right? Oh, they're waking up. Ta ta ta. It is not so much catcalling during ovulation, is it? Watch here. They never thought of it. They never thought of it. In other words, the point I'm making, the very same thing can differ based on your biological cycle, right? Huh? This is what women told me. And therefore, we're transferring from this to the point I'm making. When does bullying start? Clearly, we have to have some definition, right? Huh? It starts when it begins to hurt you and when it is unnecessary. Huh? Harm, and necessity. Have to look at those two things. And so I've been to so many schools. Dr. Gail, can you come and talk to bullying? And I say to them, list them for me. The girls, doc, they're just bullying the boys. And I'm like, okay, can we have the boys together? And I sit to the boys, yes, sir. And I'm like, whoa, that's beginning to be scary. How much sperm are you going to produce by being that non-masculine? And so we have to begin to take a holistic view of bullying and everything else. We have to begin to talk to our boys and reassure them that they're human beings. Are you with me so far? And re-empower them. They have to learn that they can stand up for their brothers without being a gang member. In Trinidad, people say to me there are two sets of boys in Trinidad, Dr. Gale. There are a whole bunch of those that everybody bully, and the gunmen. And even though that's not true, the point is that we're saying is that the middle, normal children, right, are becoming less and less, because what have we been doing in the world? Swinging left, swinging right. Get rid of Trump, put in some, yeah, right? We've been doing it, right? Brazil, Bolsonaro gone, Silva, right? Isn't that what we've been doing? And we've not been paying attention to the center. And therefore the new normal is either right wing or left wing. Isn't that the way the world has been going? And people have not been paying attention to what's really sensible, what's really pragmatic. So let me leave you with it. We have to begin to understand two things. When a child bullies, we're talking about real bullying now. When a child genuinely harms someone, what is that? It's an indicator that that child is in trouble. So all of us who are trained in violence studies have a specific type of training. We focus on perpetrators because perpetrators are the first victims. You didn't get that. We focus on perpetrators because perpetrators are the first victims. If you victimize me, naturally I am going to victimize someone. So let's do the profile of bullies and then I'll sit down. Number one, they're darker than everybody else. You've never profiled them. Number two, they're either very skinny or overweight. You've never checked that. They're either too small or too big. It means that people have been giving them hell. And 99% of every single study I've seen with bullies, they've been through immense ACs, specifically from their caregivers. So as we work with bullying, we have to make sure we do what my training, what's written on my door back at SOAS. It says when you save the life of one bully, you have just helped 100 victims. Stay with me. When you save the life, when you change one person who is going to kill, you've prevented a victim. It's written on my door. But that's not the direction the world has been going. What we've been doing is patching up people as they get hurt and ignore the person who's doing the hurting. Am I right? And they keep hurting and we get greater funding to patch them up again, right? And we get enough funding and funding is a pour in because we're not doing the right things. Am I right? I told you I was going to take the risk of being honest with you from a scientific point of view. So we have to begin then, we have to A, look at the people who are hurting because they are going to hurt the next generation, yes? So we have to look at the immediate victims and we also have to examine the victims who are now perpetrating. Are we clear so far? And as we do that, we're going to begin to make this world a better place. But please, folk, it's not time to panic. It is time for us to keep those of us who are at the wheel working and to make sure we create a safer space for our children. God bless you all. Take care.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gale. And let us re-emphasize that point, that saving the life of one bully saves the lives of many victims, potential victims. Thank you so much for that. Our next presenter is Dr. Charlene Cordesai, and she will be making her presentation.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, and good morning to everyone here and to those of you who are online. Today I am going to be talking about strategies for addressing bullying, tips for school administrators. Is the presentation going to be put up, or should I just go ahead? I know we're on a tight timeline. Okay, while they're bringing it up, let me start by saying that bullying, as a school administrator, we have to think about bullying both in and out of school. Oh, thank you so much. And, okay, just 1 second, everyone. We're just waiting for it to come up. All right, wonderful. Can we just put it in presentation mode now? Okay, great. All right, so it takes place in the school environment, but it can also extend outside of the school environment. And we've recently been talking a lot about cyberbullying, things that may happen on the way to school, after school, on the way home. So it can happen, as I said, in schools, on campus, or out. We know it can lead to school violence, to a more negative school climate. And of course, it can lead to potential legal action from parents, depending on how serious it may become. So as school administrators, we have an opportunity to address bullying on all levels for the students' experience. And we want to prevent bullying to create a safer and more positive learning environment for our children. To make them laugh, it's something where it's between friends. It isn't meant to be mean or cruel. There's not that intention. It doesn't make people feel bad, and it stops before someone gets upset. Teasing, this is the very thin line part now. And teasing doesn't happen often because, as I said, there's that opportunity for it to just move to the next level very quickly. It means to make fun of someone by unkind very quickly. So it can include small insults, etc. Bullying now is something that happens over and over and can include name-calling, taunting, insulting, gossiping, leaving people out, all the physical things that we know, spreading rumors, and really making fun of someone else. And I think it's important for us to teach our children the differences between these things and to understand it ourselves as people who are hoping to address the issue. Based on the time, I'm not going to go into all the different types of bullying, but we know that there are many different types of bullying, and it can stem from something physical, emotional bullying, where you're saying hurtful things or purposefully ignoring people, spreading rumors. Cyberbullying, I mean, I was amazed while preparing for this presentation the amount and different types of bullying that can happen in cyberspace, including, fraud to, all the revenge porn and all these various things. But also bullying can be direct versus indirect. So, of course, direct bullying is when you are doing something, it involves direct contact with the person. But there's also this issue of indirect bullying, which, again, can mean spreading rumors about a classmate. And so, as administrators, we need to understand all the various types of bullying that we may be dealing with in our school environment. I know that we know the stats. We know that physical fights and bullying are the most common forms of peer-to-peer violence. 1 in 3 students in Jamaica between 13 and 15 report having been in at least one physical fight in the last year. 1 in 4 adolescents aged 13 to 15 have reported being bullied in the last month. When we go to online bullying, we can see some stats coming out of research that has been done in Jamaica, and we're just about to have some updated research too on this, which of course we'd want to share with all of you. 20% of students have had an experience online which make them feel bad about themselves. 20% of students say that they feel pressured to post content which is sexually explicit. 64% of Jamaican students have been contacted by a stranger online in a way which made them feel uncomfortable or scared. So we do have a problem that we need to address, right? Next slide. And so what can we do as administrators in schools? And this is what I was really asked to speak about today, actionable strategies. And I want to start by saying the first thing you need to do as an administrator in your school is assess bullying at your school. Data is power, research is power, right? So why do we want to do this? Because let's face it, as adults, we often do not know the types and amount of bullying that's taking place in our school. That's just a fact. So we need to be able to be in contact and in touch with what is happening in our school. Once we know this, it also helps to motivate teachers, staff, parents, other students to take action. It promotes buy-in. If you understand what's going on, I think it can get people involved to say, okay, maybe we really do need to do something about this. It helps to identify the hotspots. Right? So where is bullying taking place, and who are the ones that are bullying? What grade is having an issue? Again, the data, the research can help you with this. And it can also therefore guide the development of strategies, specific tailored strategies for your, say, let's do some research, let's get the data. Staff members in the school, have they seen bullying? Have they heard about bullying from other students or other staff members? Share the findings and get feedback. So do you think this is accurate? This is what grade 9 told us. Is this what you're seeing also in the school? This is ways of gathering information and data. We can also form a coordinating group to assess the anti-bullying activities at the school. Some of the schools, you may already have the school-wide positive behavior intervention and support framework in operation. Everybody knows about SWPBIS? So I know many schools have this already. There's already supposed to be a coordinating unit. They could also serve as the anti-bullying unit. Next slide. Once we assess bullying at the school, we want you to track bullying at the school now. So you want to document and all confirmed and suspected incidents of bullying. We want to develop a logical and timely reporting system. So we need to be able to log the incidents of bullying. We need to be able to make sure that it is there. This could be paper-based, this could be electronic. We want to make sure this reporting system is confidential, okay? And then, of course, we want to be able to train all of the school to be familiar with the reporting procedures and to know what their obligations are to report bullying. And this goes from the teachers, the students, as well as the school personnel. And the school personnel extends to the bus drivers, people who are working in the cafeteria, school nurse, auxiliary staff. Everyone needs to be involved in this whole school approach. Next slide. Addressing bullying, of course, means that we have to establish and enforce school rules and policies related to bullying. We mentioned that we need to train the staff on the issue of bullying. We need to develop clear rules and sanctions for the issue of bullying. We need to ensure that all school stakeholders are aware of the definitions. So again, it's not just a joke, it's not just teasing. This is something that's chronic, this is bullying, this is something that we cannot tolerate, this is basically violence. And we also need to change the climate of the school and the social norms regarding bullying. Again, I have to touch, I'm a really big fan of SWPBS. We have to come back to that because it's about promoting positive behavior, having a positive school climate, right? We want to reward students for positive behavior and inclusive behavior as opposed to punishing them for bad behavior. We want to change the way that we look at it. And it can also help us to increase adult supervision in hotspots where bullying occurs. Next slide. A part of addressing bullying, one of the strategies that we really have to do, listen to all reports of bullying made by staff, students, and parents. Don't just assume, okay? We want to intervene consistently and appropriately in bullying situations, and we want to investigate and resolve matters quickly, right? Not because, oh, we know that student, she's always complaining, she's always talking about. We need to take these things seriously so that it doesn't escalate into a bigger problem. We need to take immediate action and support for all the children involved. And we heard this in our opening greetings this morning, right? We have to ensure that we quickly refer to mental health and psychosocial support. We need to, maybe depending on the level of bullying at your school, implement a buddy system, especially when going by hotspot areas and those type of things. Take goes for everyone, the witnesses, the perpetrators, and the victims. As Dr. Gale was saying, you know, perpetrators are often victims themselves. And so again, when we're addressing bullying, I'm sorry, I know time is up, just give me 2 more minutes. You know, we really do need to make sure everyone is getting appropriate intervention in this situation, okay? I want to highlight a recent report that was released by the World Health Organization in collaboration with UNICEF and others. It's about what works to prevent online violence against children, but it does have a lot of information for general bullying as well. So I'll ensure, Glisa, that we can get this report out to everyone. But it talks about the fact that there's an enormous scientific literature behind prevention education for youth and families. It's saying that to deal with bullying in your school, we need to educate, basically. It's a simple, cost-effective strategy. It works. And this particular report reviews youth prevention education programs from over 1,000 controlled empirical trials cataloged in 74 meta-analysis involving nearly 500,000 participants. So there's a lot of information from all different countries around the world related to bullying. The most widely evaluated prevention programs were about substance abuse, externalizing problems such as bullying, and sexual behavior. But many of them involved many of these different problems. And basically what it showed is that virtually all the domains showed positive outcomes to the education programs, with practically no negative outcomes. Of course, there were varying results. And just to quickly highlight some of the core components of these prevention education programs, because as an administrator, this is what you'd want to do. Once you track the bullying, once you assess what's happening in your school, you want to address it by educating everybody in the school about bullying through prevention, right? Prevention efforts. So when they looked at what programs were successful, these were some of the things that they found. In terms of structural components, there were multiple and varied learning strategies and tools. There was repeated exposure. It's not just one time and you're done. Right? That you say, okay, I've educated everybody in my school, it's over. No, this is something you have to keep doing. There were a lot of peer engagement, role plays, interaction, the whole school environment approach, as we mentioned. Parents need to be involved, well-trained facilitators, etc. In terms of the skill components, they looked at things like problem-solving skills, assertiveness, self-efficacy, resistance to peer pressure. We looked at things like empathy, conflict resolution and de-escalation, bystander and defender mobilization. These were all the things that worked. These were all the skill components that worked. Next slide. And in terms of the knowledge components of the successful prevention education programs, they looked at things like social norm instruction, sex education, substance abuse education. All of these things helped to make those programs successful. And then finally, I just want to say, last slide please, is that addressing bullying is something that you have to keep on doing, keep on keeping on, and we mentioned this before. There's no end date to bullying prevention activities at your school. This is something you need to just integrate into your whole school program, which is why, again, I think SWPBS is the way to go, because it's a big part of it. It becomes a part of the whole school framework. Bullying prevention should be integrated into the entire school environment, and we can't give up. We have to keep going because we're doing this for our children and to make just a better, more positive environment for everyone involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cordesai. I hope all the school administrators in the room took notes, very copious notes, to try to implement some of these strategies within their own schools so we can combat bullying within schools, so that we can have more resilient children coming out of the school system. And following up, we have Miss Anna J. Roberts coming to give her presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Oh gosh, come again. Good morning, everyone. Slightly better, and good morning to everyone that is joining us virtually as well. All right, so we've just heard from Dr. Gale and Dr. Cordesai, and they spoke about the profile of the bully and how teasing and joking there's a thin line before it becomes bullying. And I want to share a story, but don't judge me too harshly. Some years ago, I realized I was a bully. In primary school, so 20, 25 years ago, long time, I was about 7-ish. There was this girl that I didn't like her, she didn't like me for whatever reason. And I didn't used to talk to her, I didn't used to play with her, but I wasn't encouraging anyone to join in or anything like that, you know. So it was just harmful, we're not friends, that's it. Years later now, social media, Facebook, I add her. I was like, oh, hi, it's Anna J. We went to school together. You remember me? And she said, how could I forget you? The girl that teased me throughout primary school say I have mad cow disease. Mind you, at that age, I had no clue what mad cow disease was. We just were hearing it all the time, and I just kept saying this. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. But you can see years and years later, she still remembered because it left a mark, right? It was memorable to her. Now, while that situation didn't escalate, and I don't think, well, I don't know, but she may not have been significantly traumatized by the situation, but it was memorable. But imagine you are the parent of that child, and your child comes home and tells you that, oh, you know, this person picks on me every day, or you send your child to school with a nice breakfast, ackee and saltfish and all of that. But every time you send breakfast, someone takes it as a joke and throws it in the bin, and, you know, taking your child's lunch money, throwing stones at them and so on. How is it that you, as the parent or caregiver, guardian, you are affected as well? So while the parents aren't the ones that are in the situation, but they get affected also. So imagine you have pressure and you hear something like that. Your pressure fly right up same time. You're stressed, the anxiety, you're at work, can't pay attention, distracted, wondering, I wonder if little Johnny all right or little Jane all right. Parents are also affected. So when we consider bullying, we have to, of course, consider what the child or the victim is going through, but the impact on the other persons in their network, they are also affected as well. And the parents of the victim, but also the parents of the bully, because there is possibly shame and embarrassment said, so this is the child that you have raised. But also, if the other child or the victim has been injured, you are now responsible for the medical costs, or legal action might be taken against you, depending on the situation. So we also have to consider not just the parent, not just the children, sorry, but the parents as well are also affected. But I'm speaking more about cyberbullying and things that happen in social media and so on. And we all know you have to limit screen time, because it's not too much screen time is not good. You must go outside and play, take up a book. You can't be on social media all day, every day. But some years ago, 2020, we had a situation where we had to rely on a lot of screen time, because everyone was now doing online school, and parents working from home, yes, but you have to work too, so you have to just leave them up to their devices and hope for the best. But in the same way that we teach our children about dangers in the outside world, we have to teach them how to navigate the social media landscape, and you have to worry about human trafficking and online grooming, and who is trying to befriend your child, and what are they saying to them, what are they doing to try and get their trust. And you used to teach your children just about, oh, the strangers outside, the predators are outside. But with social media and internet devices, the predators are in our own homes. And remember, it's not a situation where you have a one computer in the family room. Everyone has their mobile phone. Everyone has a laptop or a tablet. So the predators were so worried about not just in the homes, but they're in the bedroom, because that's where the phone is. And they're in the bathroom, because again, teenagers, we go to or adults ourselves, we go to the bathroom and we have our phones with us, right? So everywhere our children are going, these dangers are following them because of this seemingly unlimited access to social media. So we have to worry about hackers and persons stealing your information, creating fake profiles, and of course, you now have to be worried about cyberbullying. And so back to my story. This was in face-to-face, not cyberbullying. But at the time, nothing was done. Nothing happened. I wasn't punished. No one spoke to me. And she, the other girl, she did not tell anyone. And a lot of times, even now, that is still the response that we have to issues of bullying. Your child tells you something is happening, and the response is, oh, ignore it. You go to school to learn. Pay it no mind. And we're now realizing that that is not enough. And we had Dr. Cordesai share with us a while ago some of the different strategies that school administrators can take. But it's no longer enough to just ignore it and to say, put it aside, right? Or it doesn't matter, pay attention. And we need to move away from that. But to address bullying, you have to know that it's happening, right? And how do you know? Because a lot of times, remember, children don't always talk about what is happening. They keep it a secret. So how is it that you will know that there's something happening? There are some things you have to look out for. But before that, you have to make sure that the relationships that we have with children, it's open and it allows them to feel comfortable. Because how many times, say an example, a child teasing you at school, child come home bawling, so that's your ball for? After no, that's really a ball for? Right? That shuts them down so that they don't want to speak about it any further. Or someone is throwing stones at them every time they walk past. So pick me a throw stone off of here, you know, take up one bigger rock stone lick them. Right? That kind of attitude, they don't necessarily want to continue the conversation. So we have to make sure that the environment that we set up makes them comfortable and want to share with us and want to come to us for help to navigate a difficult situation. But, so we do all of that in hopes of getting them to open up. But if they don't, there are some things to look out for. So there's the behavioral cues, the child that's maybe a bit more, becomes withdrawn. And remember, the child that gets bullied is oftentimes not the assertive one. They're probably a bit more shy, a bit more withdrawn. So when we tell them don't do anything, that just continues the cycle of them being withdrawn. And in our language, we would say them coming like weak fence, right? So we need our children to be more assertive, but it starts with us as adults, as parents. But there are other things we have to look out for. So the behavioral cues, as I mentioned, they may become more withdrawn. Just randomly, "Mommy, Daddy, I don't want to go to school." Not having a real explanation to give to you, why they don't want to go to school. Or they start eating less. But there are other things, because you know that as parents, we're checking phones, right? Right? We're checking social media profiles. Yes? Checking who is on the friend list and the conversations that they're having. Not invading privacy, so you're going to tell them that you're checking. Let them know that there is going to be a check. But there are certain things you have to look out for. So we all know the popular social media platforms, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, no. But there are others that aren't as popular. So we have Kik, Tinder, Tumblr, Meet Me, and Meet Me is exactly how it sounds. It's suggesting that people who don't know each other meet up. You can share your location, and it suggests that it encourages you to meet in real life. And while you're checking the apps and you're checking the conversations, be mindful that there are other apps that can be used to hide these actual apps. So for example, something will look like a calculator. It even works like a calculator, but it's actually a vault where you can store another app. So you check the WhatsApp and you say, all is well, it's good. The conversation is clean, but our phones now have dual SIMs. We can have 2 WhatsApp. There is another WhatsApp account on the phone, but it's hidden in another deceptive app. So you just have to be mindful of all the little tips and tricks that are out there. And to digress a little bit, at my desk, in the Ananda Alert unit, I had a situation where parent was doing their best, checking social media, checking conversations, and nothing seemed out of the norm. But it was another sibling in the household that helped parent to check and found that there was a hidden WhatsApp in one of these apps. And that is how we were able to get information to lead to that investigation, and that child was safely recovered. Right? But there are so many different things that we just have to be mindful of. Know the little tips or tricks that children might be using to hide stuff from us. Pay attention to the language that you're seeing as well. We know LOL, we know BRB, we know those things. But there are other things you might see it as just a bunch of jumble up letters and you don't realize exactly what it is or what the conversation is about. And I don't have a presentation to show it on screen right now. But there's another one of LMIRL. And that means let's meet in real life. You might see it and see it's a bunch of random letters, but you just have to know or ask other teenagers, so what does this mean, right? Just give me 2 more minutes or 2 more seconds, right? Just ask, what does this mean? Because we don't always have the information. A lot of these things, it's my young teenage nieces that shared with me. So you might see a bunch of letters that mean nothing, but there is some context to it. You see someone constantly sending your child a knife emoji or a bomb emoji. Why? Is some kind of threat being made? Right? So just pay attention to the different things that you're seeing. Sorry about that. So we're trying to prevent, and I mentioned before, the avoidant behavior of ignoring it doesn't work. We have to have intentional and purposeful strategies in place, both at the school level and also at the home level. And the school intervention must incorporate parents, because a lot of times the bullying that we're seeing at school is not isolated. There's something going on at home. Maybe that's where they're learning it from, because a lot of times bullying is not just peer on peer. Sometimes as parents, we are the ones bullying our children, and they are repeating the very behaviors that we have taught them. And then when we hear that they're a bully at school, it's like, oh my gosh, how come? When it's exactly, it's learned behavior. We have taught them to cow down people and to belittle people and to tease and to make fun of and so on. So there has to be clear communication in defining what is bullying, because I, for years, did not know that what I did was bullying this young girl. We have to define it. There has to be consequences, and these consequences have to be consistent, and we need parental buy-in, because the consequences that take place at school, parent at home, you must also be putting consequences in place for the child that is, for your child that is bullying someone else. We also have to empower bystanders, because a lot of times there are other children who witness what is happening, and they may talk about it. They don't do anything at the time, and they go home and tell mommy, and mommy say, stay out of it. It had nothing to do with you. Walk past, don't say, don't say. But we have to make sure the bystanders are also empowered so that they can either intervene and say, no, don't do this, because a lot of times the victim is alone or feel alone in a situation. Let them know that they're not, but also they can report it. Report it to school officials, report it to guidance counselor and so on. And of course, you know that we at CPFSA, we are here. 211 is free and confidential 24/7, so persons can also report issues or instances of bullying to us here at the CPFSA. And those are my very few words. Thank you so much for the extra 2 minutes. And back over to our moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. I hope you got a lot of information on how to parent in the digital age, and a lot of information that is hidden because children hide stuff, so our parents are not aware of them. So now we're quickly moving into our question and answer segment. And to our audience, both in person and online, the floor is now available to you all to ask your questions of your panelists and for them to respond in kind. So I will ask anyone, both online and have those questions fielded to me, and in person, to utilize the microphones in front of you to ask your questions. Anyone at this time? Okay, so for Dr. Gale, you spoke about the demasculization of boys and the increase in female bullying from a scientific standpoint. How do we tackle this trend in our schools?
All right, so let's just look at what's happening. The truth of the matter is that we need to empower everybody, right? We haven't spoken about structural bullying, but believe me, you need to pay attention to the work of Johan Galtung. Okay, Johan Galtung. That's a J, please. It's wherever you hear Johan, it's a J. All right. So Johan Galtung, look at his work on structural violence. Look at schools that already set up a child to be bullied. Okay? Child walks in, child always look hungry, always have white squall at his mouth. Everybody in the school set up a structure that says this one is to be bullied. All right? So you have to look for these things in your school. But we're talking about how do we address that? If you empower people, right? When I went to school, I graduated from school weighing 107 pounds. You understand that? I didn't have the Coca-Cola bottle glass, but everybody knew I was the nerd. And some nerds will be able to get away, right? But I had girls who were very adamant that, Herbs, there's no way you're going to stay at school every day and marvel and just stay in your book, right? Girls pushed me into football. I'm very serious. They're like, you want to walk to us? You want to talk with us? You want to come to the party with us? You have to go play football. So I had to learn to go play football, tennis, and so forth. I see them now, I talk with them now, right? And they remind me of how important it was for them to have helped to make me masculine. But that's one level. The other level is when they actually go to the point where they are harming you, where you yourself don't see the benefit of what they're doing, and therefore if you don't see the benefit of what they're doing, then it's bullying. And what was important was other persons I saw at my school when I was growing up being bullied. And one of the things we did was to have a buddy system. We spoke about it. I had a bodyguard in school. If you go back to my school, in my year I created half the medals, and the principal said, you're a treasure. We can't have a treasure and have some boy come bully you. So I had a bodyguard. He was 6'6" by the time he was in 5th form. We call him Goliath, right? And anywhere you see Herbs walking, you would see Goliath. And when I go into the line and Goliath says, "Rrr," you know, everybody says, yeah man, it's in bodyguard, right? So there are creative ways to address these problems. Also pay attention, again, remember, if you see a girl bullying somebody and it's going to a certain extent, it makes sense to just sit with this girl to find out how much ACs that child is experiencing at home. If you see a boy bullying, sit with the boy, right? And find out how much AC, what is his life looking like? Because if you help to change that boy's life, right? I'm not only the head of Fathers Inc., I'm also the chair of Children First. I can tell you, a lot of the children that we get at Children First, we track them to their parents. Their parents have been tortured. Their parents, 5 generations of torture. We've met families where 5 generations of women have been raped. Now you can understand when you get to the 6th generation what the cultural reference point is, meaning that is what they're accustomed to. And therefore you have to begin to work with families in order to help the children. And not just take one and say, hey, let's show everything on this one and just leave that one, but to again go back to the holistic principle of every part in a power relation needs to be examined and be assisted.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. Present panelists, can you go a little closer when you're responding to questions so that the online participants can also hear you? Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? You can comment as well. Okay.
It's
Thank you, Ms. Clark, for your comments. Okay. You want to respond?
All right, so let me just make sure that this is very clear. The point I was making is that I left school weighing 107 pounds, which means I was very tiny. I did not change, my dear. Okay, let's make sure, because you can't, there's some things you can't change about yourself. Okay, but I was making the distinction between the people around you seeing that you actually need to come out of your shell, right? And they're doing that. That's not bullying. That's the point I was trying to make to everybody. That is not bullying. When a group of girls come to you and say, you have to learn to play football and so forth. I have worked with gifted children, yes? It's what I've done for many, many years. Some of them can't speak to anybody. They actually are very awkward. And it makes life very difficult for them because they put themselves in a situation where they don't understand life even though they're bright. I had a lot of girls around me when I was in high school and even primary school who decided I was their project, and this was very positive. But there was one who was clearly a bully. I took my shirt off one day and she ran and took what they call a white marker, like a push-claw marker for those of you who are older, and gave me my first scar and says, that's how boys should be. Of course she was punished because now that's bullying. That's separate from my crew, right? Notice the word, they became my crew because they were making sure that I enjoyed school, that I didn't just spend time doing everybody's homework for them, right? And just being a little 107-pound guy in the corner that they couldn't even find a necktie to fit when I was graduating, right? So it's not that children should change, but I'm saying to all of us that as we examine bullying, we need to pay attention to those, again, remember the two words. Is it necessary? Is it harmful? So if I never interpret it as harmful, if I was happy for them to show me games and so forth, then I was not being bullied. But many times we stay outside of this relationship and we look and we say, you see, it's bullying, but it is not. It's like two Jamaicans meet each other in Trafalgar Square and they started greeting each other and both of them were arrested. Does that make sense to you? They were greeting each other, which we can't say here how they greeted each other, but they were both arrested. I'm saying the people who are looking on as we work with this need to spend some time to interrogate, to discuss with people to find out what is it that they're experiencing. Because it is the experience, yes, that is where the bullying is.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. I have a question from one of our online participants. To the panel. On many occasions, bullying goes unreported in schools. What are some strategies schools can implement to address this? Dr. Cordes?
Just to ensure I understand the question, is saying when things go unreported,
Yes.
how can we address that?
Yes.
Okay, I think it is just everything that we've been saying. I think that we have to create an environment within the school where we, everyone feels empowered, as we've been saying, to talk about these things. They understand the difference. They know what bullying is. I think that's very important. And so once you know that this is bullying and this is something that you have an obligation to address and report, and that there is a reporting system where people feel comfortable, that they also are not going to then be somehow persecuted for talking up and saying, so it has to be that we change the culture and that we really have an environment where everybody feels comfortable being able to talk about these issues and report it without any fear of negative consequences. And so once we can do that, we can create that environment, and hopefully everybody will feel that this is something that we can report, and that we not just can report, that we should report, and that, again, also that something is going to be done, which is why I was also stressing in the presentation that one of the something that people know that there's going to be some kind of that this is a safe place where there will be some kind of actions for, not only actions, but also consequences for bullying, so that you feel comfortable. Because one thing that happens too is that people become frustrated if they don't think anything is going to happen. Why should I bother report this? Why should I bother talk about this? What's the point, right? Them just going to get away with it, or whatever it might be. And so again, we have to create a culture, as the school, we have to create a culture where people recognize that there are going to be some actions that are going to be taken. So I think those are some of the things. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's hard. But I think that it's such an important issue in our school right now. It really impacts the school climate, the ability of everyone to feel comfortable, both staff and students, and for people to learn. We all want our children to learn. We all want school to be a safe and comfortable place for everybody involved. And I think that if that is the case, we have to do the hard work to change the culture in our schools.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Just also want to add, supervision is also key. And in the absence of reporting, we have to rely on observing and making observations. So at school, lunchtime, break time, it shouldn't be a situation where all the teachers, we understand you need a break, you need rest, but not everyone can get that break and that rest at the same time. So all the children are out in the compound while all the teachers are relaxing in the staff room or so on. And especially for younger children, you have to provide supervision for so many other things. So yes, we want them to report, and yes, we will create the environment that encourages reporting, but in the absence of that, we also have to make sure that we are physically present so that we can see who is picking on who is taunting and who is teasing. Because if the child doesn't report, we still want to make sure that something is in place to notice what is happening with the children.
Okay, so our final two questions before we wrap up. Ms. Roberts, can you share with us 4 consequences of bullying and cyberbullying, and what are 2 types of cyberbullying?
All right, so some of the consequences, they're the emotional ones. So we have the possible low self-esteem. The child may become withdrawn. They may become aggressive. So the flip side, they may become aggressive and aggressors themselves. They may become bullies themselves. And the full extent of the situation, we might have depression and potential suicide. So those are some of the possible effects. And the other question.
What are 2 types of cyberbullying?
All right, so types, we have persons can create fake profiles, and on Instagram it's called Finsta, where they pretend to be you, fake profiles or Finsta, pretend to be someone. They may post rumors, start spreading rumors about them, teasing them, take inappropriate or embarrassing photographs or videos, post them online, or edit photos to make them very unattractive, unappealing, and share them online. And just quickly, bullying, face-to-face bullying, it happens within a particular environment. But you see, with cyberbullying, it so easily transcends that environment. So very quickly, your stories about you or pictures about you can be at another school or in another parish and so on. So you no longer have to worry about the constrained side effects of what so many persons see this video of you or hear this rumor about you. So everywhere you go, oh, it's that little girl, or oh, it's that little boy, right? So that's just something that we also have to worry about as well when we're talking about cyberbullying.
Okay. Yes.
All right. My question is to Dr. Desia. Okay, so at my school, we're an all-girls school, and we have identified that we have different types of bullying within the entire cohort. Our data also states when the students come, we have an open door policy where the students would come and they would report it, or the bystanders would come and report it for them to get help. So we have the data. What do we do with the data now? That's where we are. We're at a standpoint where we're not sure what programs to actually put in place, because as you stated before, it's not just a one-time fix all. It's a constant going on thing. the grades that are more susceptible to the bullying is grade 7 and grade 9. Right, those are our key problematic cohorts. So what do we do with the data now that we have collected it and we know, okay, so for the month we have at least 10 cases reported of different types of bullying, whether it's just joke or it's actually physical where the student gets punished, they're suspended. Where do we go from here after getting this data gathered?
Thank you for your question. I also went to an all-girls school, so I know all about that bullying, that level of bullying. Well, just to say, first of all, you're not alone. Sometimes it's very difficult to take the jump from having that data to actually putting that data to work for you. So, I mean, I think that you need to put a team together who can help you analyze the data and really dig deep to look at some of the, maybe the nuances. I mean, you know, yes, you know there are 10 cases. Yes, you know what grades they are. Maybe what are the types of bullying that we keep seeing coming up over and over again? Is it specific to the age group? Is it the fact that in grade 7 they're all coming in, everybody's a little overwhelmed? What are, you know, so maybe digging deeper into some of the nuances of the data is a good starting place. I think, though, once you have your team together who can brainstorm, and again, this team should ideally include not just teachers, right? And not just grade 7 and grade 9 teachers. It should include a cross-section of people in the school, as well as parents and students, too. I'm a big believer in also getting student opinions on what to do in certain situations, right? I would love to talk to you about your organization as well, because I think it is important to get youth voices and hear what they're saying. Everybody's voices. But I think that once you can pull that team together, you can dig a little deeper, then you can start to build those tailored, specific prevention strategies and response strategies. In some, it's not only just prevention. Sometimes you have to have things in place to respond quickly to when things happen. So, I mean, that is what I would recommend, I think, and just, again, finding ways to make that data work for you. Don't be afraid to dig deeper and figure out really, and then to design some strategies that are really responding to the particular issues in your school. It doesn't make sense to implement a generic anti-bullying prevention program. Yes, it might be helpful and you might get some things out of it, but is it going to really address the particular issues that you and your school are facing? Probably not. And so, again, maybe using some components that we know that work, you know, for example, involving the youth in the design of the programs, having it something that is recurring, you know, all the things I was mentioning in terms of components that we know work. Yes, you want to infuse those, but the actual content will be what you're learning from your school and specific to what's happening in your school.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank our panelists again for their presentation and their ability to answer your questions so expertly. And this comes to the conclusion of our first plenary, which is titled Victims to Systems. Give a round of applause to our panelists again. Thank you so much for taking the time out to share with us this morning. I am now going to hand over to our Master of Ceremonies as he takes over for the next session of our programs. Thank you. Presenters, please don't leave as yet.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reed-Smith. So before our presenters leave, who would have shared with you significant information, we have some special presentations for them, so please don't leave. Thank you very much, Mr. Deja Roberts. Yes. And to Herbert Gill, Dr. Gill. Thank you very much, Dr. Gale. And of course, last but definitely not least, Mrs. Cordesai. Let's hear from Mrs. Cordesai. So we're moving right along. We are running a little bit behind time. However, I did promise some giveaways, and the giveaways are both online and face-to-face here. So, questions. Online. Let me go online first. And I'm going to assume somebody's going to be monitoring the chat for me. So the first person who responds online, by the way, is the one who will be awarded this prize. The persons who would have responded first in face-to-face, again, would be the ones who would have been awarded the prize. So, online, I need a definition of bullying. What is bullying online? Simple question, we're starting very simple. We're not going for the top student yet, not like Dr. Herbert Gale, yeah? We're not going for those as yet. Simple question. What is regarded as bullying? Definition of bullying. And those here, what are some of the signs that your child is being bullied? I see a hand up front there, so am I correct? I don't know if anybody else was monitoring. I saw this hand first. I'm not sure who went first, whether it was this young lady here or that gentleman. Okay, so online I have the response from Tasmoy Crawford. According to Ms. Crawford, imposing one's belief forcefully on another. So I will leave my judges to decide whether that's correct or not. And my audience says no. It's a resounding no. So Tasmoy, the audience of judges says a resounding no. I think they would have heard the online as well because that was quite loud. Yeah? All right. So Ms. Johnson, Denise Johnson also says, bullying causes harm and is unnecessary treatment to others. That sounds more like it. So we have a winner. No? They will tell us, all right, there you go, not yet accepted. Fine. So, tiebreaker between the gentleman over there and the young lady right here whose hand went up first regarding signs of bullying. Pardon me? But, no, you not see behind you. Oh, when if her hand went up before him, because fear hand went up before hers. All right, so young lady here, go ahead and respond, please.
All right, some signs of bullying. The child becomes withdrawn. They are eating less. They do not want to go to school. They don't want to socialize any at all. They prefer being isolated. Anything else? You want any more?
You don't want more? That's one like, you know? She get it? She get it. Okay. Wonderful. So we're going to go back online. Simple question again online. The first workshop in the series of this anti-bullying campaign, I want you to tell me when it took place and the theme. The date and the theme online. The first anti-bullying workshop campaign. The date and the theme. So while they try to figure out the response, Dr. Cordesai mentioned in her presentation What percentage of students have had an experience online which made them feel bad about themselves? You couldn't even wait till me done answer the question. You better. Go ahead. Should I badmine her? She is correct, absolutely. She is correct. So you will get your prize. Wonderful. Any responses online as yet? So, colleagues, well-wishers, we are about to go on a coffee break. Now, during the coffee break, we are going to be doing several things. There's going to be a poll. I'm going to ask you to participate in that poll. Yeah? We're also going to have some entertainment by Mrs. Casey Rose Phillips. So please don't go anywhere. We're going to take our coffee break in a few minutes as soon as we get the winner for that question that was earlier asked. Okay. And the winner online is Janelle Dean Carpenter. She says, aggressive continuous behavior towards a weak person, and weak in quotation marks. Okay? So, Janelle Dean Carpenter, congratulations. You will be contacted. Please don't go anywhere. And we have our two winners here as well. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Jamaica Conference Center and those online, we're going to take a 15-minute question 2 is also on the paper. Oh, sorry. Thank you for that reminder. Carrot Hines, you got it correct. October 13th, and the theme was Make Kindness Go Viral. Make Kindness Go Viral was our theme for the very first part of the series at the anti-bullying campaign workshop that took place on October 13th. So colleagues, we have more to discuss, we have more to give away. Don't go anywhere. We welcome you to have our coffee break, which is behind you. The exit door is right there. We welcome you to refresh yourselves at the Harbor Lounge. 15 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome back to this very special discussion program under the theme, Every Child Deserves Protection. I'm Dahlia Harris. Our children are faced with many serious issues that they shouldn't have to. Abuse of all types, sexual, verbal, physical, and neglect. There have also been instances of rape, murder, child labor, and trafficking. How do we protect our children? And how do we keep them safe? We've invited stakeholders to have a discussion. So with me are Mrs. Rosalie Gage Gray, CEO of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, Mrs. Diane Gordon Harrison, our Children's Advocate, and Dr. Judith Leiber, Director of the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Unit at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I want to start, ladies, with the topic of keeping children safe. And Mrs. Gage Gray, I'm going to begin with you because the CPFSA's mandate includes protecting children. So I want you to tell us about the work of the agency and its role in the care and protection of our children.
Thank you, Dahlia. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency is an executive agency under the portfolio of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. And we have primary responsibility for children who are deemed to be in need of care and protection. These are children who have been abused, neglected, abandoned, or otherwise at risk. And we receive reports of cases of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, children not attending school, children not being properly taken care of at home, and we investigate those cases of abuse. Mm-hmm. And so our primary responsibility is to ensure that children who have been abused are properly, interventions are provided for them, and that they are restored to good health, and that families are also restored. So we do a lot of work with families in communities as part of our preventative work, as well as to intervene in circumstances where the children are at risk.
Sounds like a lot. I'm guessing that you collaborate with a number of other agencies.
Number of
and
stakeholders in the child protection sector. We have panelists here who are our main stakeholders as we seek to protect our children right across the country.
Talk to me about your team. Right across the country means that you have representatives in every parish. So whichever community I am in and I feel that a child needs protection, I can find a representative from your agency.
Yes, we do have island-wide coverage. We have offices in all 14 parishes, and our main office is at 48 Duke Street, and our regional office for the Kingston and St. Andrew area is at 40 Duke Street.
Yes.
And so we have offices in all parishes, and we have investigators that will go into every nook and cranny of Jamaica to rescue a child if we have to. So we have island-wide reach, and we work with other partners on the ground as well as we seek to intervene and rescue our children.
Wonderful. One of the partners you have is the Children's Advocate, and Mrs. Gordon Harrison, your office is responsible for protecting and enforcing the rights of children and promoting their best interests at all times. Is keeping our children safe one of their rights?
Absolutely. So safety really covers a number of different facets of a child's life. If you look at what the rights are, as outlined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, you'll find that there are various facets that are interwoven to create safety. So the child, for example, has a right to shelter, a right to life, a right not to be violated in any way, a right not to be exposed to violent situations, and a right to education, health, reasonable care, and a whole host of them, which really goes into making a child feel safe and secure. So being the Commission of Parliament that treats with the protection and enforcement of rights, we do cater to the needs of children. And a child, in keeping with the international definition, is anybody who is under 18 years. Okay. We have a legal team that deals with progressing cases in court, for example, if there's an identifiable breach of a right, or if there is anyone or any institution that acts in a way that negatively impacts the best interests of a child, then we have the facility and the mechanism through which to hold persons accountable so that we're redressing wrongs that occur to children. So yes, we in fact have that particular mandate, and it's something that we do in partnership with a number of the different entities, and including law enforcement.
All right. Who are prescribed persons, and how does your office help to protect the rights of the child to be safe?
All right, so prescribed persons are persons who are designated under the Child Care and Protection Act. But before I answer you specifically about them, I want to make it very clear that the Child Care and Protection Act has really legislated what is a moral right that we all have as a nation to care for our children. So in Section 6 of the legislation, it states very clearly that anybody who has information that suggests that a child is actually being abused, was abused sometime in the past, or could be abused in the future, they have a duty to make a report. The law singles out special individuals who are called prescribed persons because of their occupation. And it typically includes persons who have high contact with children because of their jobs, which would be a school teacher, a principal, a hospital administrator, medical practitioners, social workers, coaches, and just anybody who has that high contact, because we recognize that prescribed persons have the opportunity to see a lot more in terms of what's happening with our children. And so they're the eyes of the system, really. So we need them to give us the information so that meaningful interventions and responses can be made on behalf of children.
Sometimes we come from a society where people say children should be seen and not heard, Dr. Leiba, and so we often don't know what they're thinking. Can you give us some insight into the status of our children in relation to their mental health and their state of mind?
Thank you, Delia. I'll cite a recent survey, the Global School Health Survey 2017, that showed that the age group 13 to 15 years old, about their risk of suicidal behavior was about 20 to 23%. Now that tells me that they're in a state of emotional distress. They may have some underlying problems, and sometimes it's also a reflection of an emotional or impulsive decision where maybe they got into trouble, a disciplinary crisis at school, or a quarrel with mom or dad or their boyfriend. Okay? But I'd say a lot of our children are in a state of emotional distress.
How does the violence in our society affect the children? Is this a part of the distress that they are also facing constantly?
Yes, it certainly does, from the youngest to the oldest. It causes them to be anxious. They worry. Sometimes they don't sleep for days. They don't feel like eating. They are what we call hypervigilant. So you're always ill at ease, expecting something to happen. And then after a while, it will go away if nothing further happens. Unfortunately, we have a group of children who have been repeatedly exposed to violence. They may have actually witnessed somebody being shot, or maybe they have been held up, or God forbid, raped or something like that. And then they may develop something we call post-traumatic stress disorder, where they're constantly reliving what may have happened to them. Again, they're always tense, and the memory, they have nightmares. So they really have a more serious disorder. It's one of the anxiety disorders, and it needs treatment. And it may also be associated with depression.
Yeah, what you're saying is we really need to safeguard our children.
Yes.
So what are their greatest needs in relation to being safeguarded or feeling that they're safe?
The greatest need of any child is physical safety. Safety from danger, safety from any kind of abuse, particularly physical or sexual abuse. But above and beyond that, we also need emotional safety. What is emotional safety? Being able to trust, to have a trusted caregiver, being able to have confidence in people who are taking care of you, knowing that your views will be respected, you'll be listened to, you won't be criticized and denigrated every day, and that you will be seen as a person in your own right, yes.
And that your rights are understood and respected.
Right.
Mrs. Gagegray, from the reports that have been coming in to your office, what are some of the reasons that you've been seeing, for children who go missing, children who feel that they're being abused? What are some of the reasons?
So we get at the National Children's Registry, which was formerly the Office of the Children's Registry, about 1,200 cases per month of reports of abuse. And of those reports, the most prevalent cases that are reported are neglect. This is where the family or the guardian is not taking adequate care of the child in terms of the rights that they have: right to education, health, right to shelter, food. And so once we get those reports, we do the investigations. And we would say approximately 90% of those would be confirmed as cases as reported.
All right. Now, our children spend a great deal of time at school, and with us in the audience is Mr. Richard Troop. He's Acting Director, Safety and Security in Schools at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Mr. Troop, what's happening in the schools?
Yesterday we had a focus group discussion with a group of children from the parish of Portland. It's primary level children. And they all mentioned the fact that when they are at school, that's when they feel safe. Unfortunately, we would have also been seeing the emerging trends within our school system that would suggest many children feel very unsafe at school. Some of these trends include bullying and cyberbullying, include children being victims of extortion, children will complain of how teachers speak to them, how teachers interact with them. Children feel very unsafe when they have to travel from home to school. The conditions that they are subjected to on our public transport system, this lap-up business. And children also feel very stressed at school. They feel stressed because of the heightened issues within homes and communities, the violence between their parents, the household in which they live, Sometimes many of our boys and girls come from very unsafe communities. And when communities are in tension, they bring the tension to school. And so there are those issues that will impact our nation's children. As a Ministry of Education, it would have caused us to recognize that safety and security must be treated as a priority. It is actually one of our strategic priorities of the Ministry of Education. And so we would have looked at a number of policy documents that would provide guidance to our schools. How do schools treat with critical incident? Should not be left up to our principal want to treat it or not treat it. We would have laid out very specific processes to follow. We would have encouraged all of our schools to establish safety and security committees. And this is a multi-stakeholder group. It includes vendors. Some schools include the bus drivers that normally transport children to school and from school, and students themselves. Because truth be told, in order for us to create this safe and enabling environment, all of us have a responsibility. The teachers, the administration, the ancillary staff, and students themselves. And so that's what we have been trying to encourage. The other thing that would be of concern, and I don't know if it's because probably when I was a child, we didn't have cell phone and things like that. In the context of cell phone, and nearly every child have a cell phone, the kind of videos that are posted, yes, is a cause for concern. While we would have been able to minimize, especially the group fights at school, they are taking the group fights to the streets, to the bus centers. These are cause for concern. The other thing I'd like to mention too, especially for girls, in recent time we would have been seeing so many of our girls being victims of sexual violence. Mm-hmm. Not only are they molested, but they're also killed. And so you can imagine the trauma on the immediate family. But many persons don't understand too that there is a trauma within the entire school community. Yeah. Girls are afraid to go out, and that cannot be right. And so it speaks to the need for the kind of collective action to try to find the kind of solutions that will be required.
Wow, Mr. Troop, you know, our children really are facing a lot. They're facing a lot at home and in schools. And Keisha Tomlinson is with us as well. She's a clinical psychologist at the CPFSA. And one of the common problems at schools is bullying. So we want to find out from Keisha, how is bullying affecting our children?
Bullying is a serious problem in regard to the safety of our children emotionally. When a child experiences bullying, you find that they don't want to go to school. It affects their self-esteem, and so they might not perform as well as if everything is okay. Now, you also find that they develop anxiety, and they may become depressed. They might end up thinking or entertaining suicidal thoughts. And there have been instances in other countries and where persons who experience bullying end up actually committing suicide. So it's a serious problem that needs to be addressed by all parties, school, home, and everybody need to sit at the table and look at what we can do to prevent or lessen this sort of issue.
Yeah. One of the things I'm hearing from both you, Keisha, and from Mr. Troop is just the way that the home and school are interconnected. Things happen at home, it affects the child at school. Things at school will go back at home. So it's important that all things are balanced everywhere when we are safeguarding our children. So I want to now go to Mrs. Davis-Buckle, and she's Chief Fire Prevention Officer with the Jamaica Fire Brigade, because another issue that we have that's a major issue is we've seen too many of our children perishing in fires. What are the statistics, Mrs. Davis-Buckle, and why is this happening more and more? The more you hear it, the more you think we wish it would happen less.
Thank you, Delio. The statistics as it relates to children dying in fires. Let's look at last year. January to December last year, we had 9 of our precious souls perishing in fires. And the Jamaica Fire Brigade took this very seriously. We were devastated by it. We went to the planning table and we wondered, what could we do? What can we do to stop this? So we had launched a Make We Fix It campaign. And CPFSA is one of our partners in that venture. And for 2019, as we are now, since January to April, we have too many. Because we have failed because we wanted 0. Yeah. So we have, as we speak, too many. But we are working not to have any more for this year. We are out in the schools, we are out in the communities. We are ramping up our community fire safety efforts because these fires are happening in our communities. So we are going into the communities while we educate the children at school in their career week, the teachers might invite us in and so on. We're not including the parents. Mm-hmm. So our community fire safety will take care of that.
Well, what are we saying to the parents? What's the message that we're saying to them? Don't leave the candle burning, what are we saying?
We're saying all that. But one of the things that we are trying to say to them is, don't leave them unattended. Don't leave them unattended. Educate your child. When you tell a child, no touch a match is there now, who make me not touchy? Let me see what would happen if me touch it. Mm-hmm. Show them. Don't touch it. This is how we use it. This is why we have a match in the kitchen.
So explain it.
Explain. Don't hide it. And don't bully your child. You know, you haven't seen enough of touchy. Talk with them. Tell them. We will say to our children, if you happen to feel adventurous and start a fire, don't go hide in the closet, because that is where it happened. They go hide in the closet. When the fire is recognized, it's too late. The entire house is engulfed already. When you do this, ball out, fire, run out. Alert an adult. Someone will come and help. So this is the sort of things that we are going to the community and we are talking about to our parents.
Thank you very much.
Find an adult and leave your child.
Find an adult and make sure the children are not unattended. That's the key. Thank you, Mrs. Davis-Buckle. I'm Delia Harris. Thank you so much for joining us. Every child deserves protection.
Every Child Deserves Protection was brought to you by the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, protecting children, empowering families, securing the future.
Oftentimes, we call our children bad, rude, and even swear at them. Sometimes we get angry and feel like spanking them with belts, iron, and other implements. Corporal punishment causes childhood aggression and other levels of behavioral problems. No child should be spanked as a means of discipline, so please, beg you, try positive disciplining. Talk to your child. Take away privileges, assign chores. These are some of the ways to positively discipline your child. Let us end corporal punishment.
A message from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA.
not cool. It's not fun. It's outright wrong. Did you know that bullying frequently takes place at school and on our playground? And more than 60% of Jamaican students face abuse from schoolmates. If you bully kids at school, it's wrong. If you are being bullied at school, speak up about it so that help can reach you. To report bullying, speak to your guidance counselor or call 888-PROTECT. It's time to ban the bullying.
A message from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA.
To be safe, to be loved, to be protected. That's every child's right, and securing that right is what we do. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, we receive and investigate every report, extracting the facts, authenticating reports, and collaborating with multiple agencies to help guide the decision-making process to provide holistic care for every child at risk. In instances where the death of a child occurs, the first responders are at the scene to provide first-hand counseling to children and immediate family members who were directly affected. They are then referred to the Victim Services Division for follow-on counseling and support. We strengthen the legal framework. Through court services, our team provides the court with accurate social inquiry reports. We deliver tailored interventions for each unique situation and make recommendations to the court that is in the best interest of every child. We also provide legal representation for wards of the state who are in conflict with the law. We ensure proper placement. Our team works to ensure that each placement is necessary, suitable, and in the best interest of the child. This in keeping with the UN guidelines, which speak to the necessity and suitability principles. We monitor. Our monitoring officers are in place to ensure that residential childcare facilities adhere to guidelines set out in the standards of care and do follow-up visits. They also make recommendations for immediate solution-based actions if needed. They are there to conduct investigations into any critical incident that occurs. We provide counseling. Our aim is to secure the well-being of every child and to ensure that they have a healthy and loving support unit. Through our counseling services, children and families experience transformational change that helps each child and adult live their best lives. We are the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, a government institution mandated by the Child Care and Protection Act and guided by the Hague Convention on the Rights of a Child. We safeguard the welfare of children who are in need of care and protection. For more information, visit our website at childprotection.gov.jm. Call 876-948-6678 or 948-284-122. Report child abuse to the National Children's Registry, NCR, 888-PROTECT, 776-8328. CPFSA, protecting the right of every child and safeguarding a future we can all be proud of. Protecting children is what we do.
Okay, welcome back, welcome back. I trust you were properly refreshed. Some people are still refreshing, and some have come back brighter than they were. I mean that they were well refreshed. Those in cyberspace, I hope you also took the time to get refreshed as well. I know that the poll would have been started. Those online, it will be open for an hour, and those here, we'd have all gotten a QR code in your folder, please. Please check it out and complete the poll. We're going to move on. As promised, we have our entertainment. Our entertainment today will be done by the one and only, the lovely voice of Mrs. Cassian Rose Phillips. Let's give a warm welcome to Mrs. Cassian Rose Phillips as she serenades you all. Mrs. Phillips? Ooh.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Indeed, this is a pleasure to be in this forum. I hope this song blesses your heart. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my need. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. And if I find a special friend that I've been dreaming of, it leads me to a lonely place to find myself in love. Thank you.
Wow, I say, if me could have sing so, me wouldn't dare today, you know. Yeah, me wouldn't dare. So, Casey, and you wasting your time. Yeah? Now, we're moving on. Bullying has a far-reaching impact that, as our presenters said earlier, goes beyond both the victim and the bully. It is good to hear firsthand from persons who were directly involved, either as bullies or as victims, or both. So we're at this point where we're going to invite those very persons who are both online and here with us. And online, terribly sorry about that. In person, we have two individuals, Kumar and Monique. They will be sharing the platform with us this morning, and they will be sharing their own stories surrounding bullying. So, welcome. All right, so we're going to start with the individual who was bullied. Simple. Let's start very simple. I'm going to ask you first to both introduce yourselves, and then we can go into the questions. Starting with the young lady.
Hi, my name. Hi, my name is Monique Campbell.
My name is Kira Marsang.
Go ahead, repeat that, please.
My name is Keo Marsang.
Kilmar. Okay. And online, I'm going to ask both Jada and Thierry to come online and introduce themselves. Are you here with us? Jada and Thierry. So while they join us online, I'm going to ask, simple, why do you think you were being bullied?
So the reason why I think I was bullied is because that I don't really good on spelling and reading, and that I go to a special school.
Okay. How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like I'm just unhappy, and it made me feel miserable, like my life just don't feel right.
Were you able to, or can you identify in any specific areas in your life that would have changed as a result of being bullied? Anything happened in your life differently as a result?
Yeah, what changed for you when you were being bullied?
So how it changed me, like I just started finding myself, distancing myself from people.
Speaking then.
I just find myself start distancing my way from certain people and keep myself to myself, and I find out the person who bullied me, they also bullied other people, but they do not say anything, and I didn't say anything.
Okay. We really appreciate you. It's very brave of you to come up here and dialogue with us. I'm really proud of you for doing that. My very last question for you is, what would have helped? Was there anything that helped you?
It did stop. The person stopped bullying me.
Do you know why?
No, probably somebody see it or something and say something.
Okay.
So,
Have you since then spoken to the person?
no.
What would you want to say to that person? Do you mind sharing? Would you want to say anything at all? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay. So, you want to express yourself? Anything at all? Why do you think you were bullied?
I think I think I've been bullied because of my slow reading. And sometimes I bring some books I never see before, some big book and some random new words and things you never know about them. So I used to know the whole of the book them, and I bring some new book you never know. So I bring it and I read it. And sometimes I get like 5 or 10 right, but when I get one or make one mistake or mess up, I might get a conk on my head. I'm technically on the words and word I spell or some big words. Never hear about them before, so I just see them new to me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You're in a very safe space. And let me also reassure you that what you're saying here will help persons who are both bullies and are also victims of bullying. And you're being very, very brave to come up here and share your experience with us. How did it make you feel? Could you share that with us?
Make me feel like some part of me in hell technically. Can't come out. No if run, I know if be run, I know if hide. And sometimes you try to hide, they might find you. Now a place where you never know.
Okay.
So you're scared of your own self.
Right. Thank you for that. You would have just mentioned that you're scared of your own self. Was there any other changes in your life that would have been affected by as a result of being bullied?
I'm changing. I've never used to talk to nobody. As I said by myself. My sister alone right beside of me. They keep me comfort and everything. I'm just play a game. Technically, it's a game where I know everybody know about and everybody play it already. It's a online server game. So it's a free fire or PUBG. Yeah, it's an online game you can play with it. Anybody in the entire world, you can meet new people, you can talk to them.
Is there anything that would have, anybody or anything that would have helped you?
Thank you, my friend and my cousin.
And my last question for you, would you have any message? Would you like to say anything to anybody, whether they be a bully or a victim of bullying, to help them to deal with and address bullying?
To all the kids out there that's being bullied, you stand up for yourself and you defend yourself. And time when the time is right, you need to find somebody like an adult, somebody bigger than you, or a supervisor, principal, anybody's. You can get some free time from anybody who ever bullied you. You can get them suspension or anything. Your life is fine.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Very, very brave. That was excellent. That was excellent. Can I ask you one more question? What would you like to be when you grow up? What's your career ambition?
I become a security guard.
Wonderful. And you own your own security company, don't you? Secure and protect people. Wonderful. Monique, would you like to? What's your career ambition? What would you like to become? Turn on your mic.
A cosmetologist.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very ambitious. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Well done, young people. Great job. So Thierry is now online. Thierry, are you here? Could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Thierry Anderson.
Okay, is there anything you would like to say to tell us about yourself?
Well, I am 16 years of age. I was born July 31st, 2006.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Thierry. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, it's like Thierry Henry.
Like Thierry Henry. So you're a baller then?
You can call it so.
Can call it so. Is that a so or don't go so, you know? So hold on. Which team you support? You say I get lick out yet?
No, semi-finals tomorrow, like Argentina.
You're a good youth. Don't tell nobody say me and you support the same side, yeah? I say Messi, you say.
Messi.
They might go win, don't it? You understand? Chat boat. So I understand that you used to bully persons at school?
Yes, sir.
Don't feel any way, you know. We're a reason, right?
Right.
Yeah. Do you recall what would have driven you to be a bully? Or why you did it?
There was a problem. because I was afraid of his friend, and they always say, "Can chip cock or you catch a shot?" And that show me how it, and that's how it really started. So basically, peer pressure.
Peer pressure. Okay, okay. Were you ever bullied yourself?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. So, did they eventually change their behavior towards bullying?
Me specifically,
Well, you specifically.
oh yeah, for being a better me and to change my motivate, I really knew it was not right, but I want to be disciplined for others and also myself. And if I can prevent others from being bullied, I feel better.
Nice. That is really good to hear. Is there anything that can you say if there's anybody or any one thing that would have inspired you to change and stop being a bully?
Sure. Better cognition.
Anything else?
Better cognition, and now I do believe that I can rehabilitate myself and tell myself as an individual that my darkest time taught me how to shine. So it has changed a lot, and I'm focused, determined, and disciplined. Focus shift really.
Okay.
Bullying was negative. I'm now focused on excelling academically, which is positive.
You have mentioned excelling academically, which is positive. You find that when you're not being a bully, is it that you're able to focus more on your ambition?
When I'm not being a bully, no.
So when you're not being a bully, since you have now stopped bullying, is it easier to focus on just being you and working on what your ambition in life is?
Yes.
Wonderful. Last question for you. What message would you have for persons who are caught up in bullying others?
I just want to notify them that bullying is not things that you should partake in, like to show others the right, not to be like negative and being like, but just to help them to know that they're human beings and do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Wow. Wow, theory. That is fabulous. If you were to see that persons or any of the persons who you bullied, what would you say to them now?
Well, I would say I am really, 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 really sorry. And it was just like, Bob Marley would have said, you're going to do something. There is two signs. One said yes and one said no. So I really followed the wrong one, and I would be really sorry if you appreciate my apology.
Theory, may I tell you, more power to you. Let's give him a round of applause. Those online, you can, what's that emoji? Just clap, send a raise hand, whatever it is online, right? This is theory, more power to you, and I'm sure that you would be a much more stronger person having taken the route of anti-bullying, joining in this particular campaign to wipe out bullying and minimizing bullying. More power to you, sir. So we also have Jada online. Jada, thank you very much for joining. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, Jada?
Well, my name is Jada, and I'm 17.
Hi, Jada. What is your ambition in life?
To become a lawyer.
A lawyer? Wow, you want to say why?
No.
You don't want to say why? All right, that's fine, that's fine. So, you were once a bully, and you're no more?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you ever bullied yourself?
Yes.
You were bullied once, okay. Could you say why you became a bully?
Because I wanted others around me to feel the same way that I felt when I was being bullied.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Do you find that, were you alone as a bully or do you have friends as well?
Sometimes alone, sometimes with friends.
Okay. Apart from you wanting other persons to feel how you felt, was there anything else that would have influenced you to become a bully?
No.
Okay. So what happened? What changed? And what triggered you to stop being a bully?
I got mature. I went to and mentorship.
All right, the connection went a bit. We weren't able to hear you clearly. Could you repeat that, please?
I got mature. I went to counseling sessions and I get mentorship.
Oh, wonderful! You got mature, so you grew up, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got some counseling sessions, and you got mentorship. Okay, wonderful. Could you tell me some of the ways those things helped you, particularly counseling and mentorship?
It gave me a higher self-esteem.
Are you hearing?
It gave me a higher self-esteem.
Your self-esteem is now higher? Your self-esteem is now higher?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Your connection is shaky?
Yes.
Okay, could you
Yes, sir.
put it in the chat? Are you answering to the connection or are you answering to the self-esteem? To both? While you were being a bully, did you have career ambitions? Were you able to focus on that aspect of your life?
No, sir.
Okay, so the moment you started to get counseling and mentorship, that was a whole shift for you?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Could you say, are you willing to speak about your family involvement if they played a part in you stop being a bully?
No, sir. They did not play a part.
Okay. Were they aware that you were actually bullied once and that you were now being a bully?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Okay. Could you, in a nutshell maybe, what message, if you were to become a mentor, what message would you have for that person who is either being bullied or is a bully, or any child for that matter? What message would you have if you were now the mentor?
I would like to say your past don't determine your future, and you must learn to rise above your circumstances.
Wow, Jada. Give yourself a round of applause for that. And I'm sure everybody will join you in clapping yourself. That is awesome. You are obviously yourself, and everybody, all the other four adolescents and young people who came on are obviously more empowered and stronger based on the intervention, based on the help that they would have gotten. And kudos to the persons and the support system that would have been provided to ensure that you overcome, one, being bullied, and two, being a bully. Once again, before we move on, a round of applause. Let's show them some appreciation. Those young persons for expressing themselves. It's not normal. So I agree with everybody, all the four persons, all these four young persons who spoke about their experiences. And I especially agree with Thierry about Argentina winning the World Cup. Right, Thierry, you still online? Are you gone? All right. So we're going to move on. And as promised earlier, we have an exciting part now where we actually get you all to participate. We get to hear from you, you get to speak and add your voice to this workshop. We're going to go into breakout rooms, breakout sessions. Here at the conference center is one room, one session, while online there are others. So participants here will focus on peer abuse and emotional well-being, and this will be facilitated by the highly intelligent Miss Ruth Lawrence, right? And if you don't know who Miss Ruth Lawrence is, she's at the back with that lovely, pretty smile and that fancy hairstyle. Yeah? Online in group 2, they will discuss the dangers of substance and bullying. This will be facilitated by Mr. Horain Linton. Group 3 will discuss spotting peer abuse of children with disabilities. This will be facilitated by Tanisha Dilworth. Our group 4 participants will discuss positive parenting strategies for handling bullies and victimized children, which will be facilitated by Mrs. Julia Wesley. Our 5th group will take on domestic violence, bullying in the home, which will be led by Claudette Hamilton. And the 6th and final group will look at raising children in the internet age, which will be facilitated by Ashley Stamp. So please, I'm going to ask Miss Lawrence to direct this group online, while this group in person, while those online, please join your respective groups. We have 45 minutes, which I'm sure will be a very rich discussion that will inform how we move forward where bullying is concerned. So as Miss Lawrence makes her way to take charge, I beg you listen to what she has to say. She's a very effervescent young lady, full of energy. Miss Lawrence.
All right, good morning, everyone. Still morning, right? Or is afternoon? It's morning. All right, good. Good morning again. Thank you so much, Mr. Heron, my colleague at the Ministry of Education. So today we plan to we don't have much time, but the fact that you are all here today, it says to me that, guess what? You have the answers to many of the questions that are being asked today. All right? But before I move into the questions, I want to read something real quick to you. It says, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Cayman Islands conducted a global school-based student health survey in 2007, which found, here it is, that both boys and girls experience similar rates of bullying, and that younger children were more likely to report being bullied by their peers. Moreover, 15% of students said that they had given serious thought to suicide in the previous year, and nearly 25% said that they had felt unhappy or hopeless. Comparatively, students who were not bullied reported having mental health problems at significantly higher rates. When asked about their mental health and bullying experiences, students were less likely to report either if they believed their parents were caring and kept an eye on what they did in their leisure time. Overall, it is clear that it is crucial to communicate and execute ways to reduce bullying among children and adolescents in the Caribbean due to the strong correlation between bullying and poor mental health. Houston, Jamaica, we have a problem. All right? Now, for today's session, we're going to be looking at peer abuse and emotional well-being. Thank you so much. I'm short, by the way. Yes, so we're going to be looking at peer abuse and emotional well-being. And we've heard the presenters, we've heard the speakers, we've heard some of our young people, you know, speaking about some of the situations that they've been faced with. But I want to ask us today, and listen, I can tell you, this, you are at liberty to pose your questions. And what I want to is, I want a volunteer of someone to take some notes. Who would like to do that today? Oh, don't wave your hands all at once. But we'd love today, if you know that you are really good with note-taking, just to volunteer yourself to record some of the points that are being added today. Any volunteers, please? All right. I think I see somebody who look like they want to assist me. She's putting down her head. It's because I know her, Miss Anderson. You want to help her out? Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Miss Anderson. Put your hands together for Miss Anderson. Thank you. They say, in church, they say lay hands on no man. Suddenly, well, you're a woman. So guess what? I shall lay hands. Thank you so much, Roxy. All right. So I want to ask today, who should speak up? First question. Who do you really think should speak up for children with special needs who are being bullied? Because today we found that there were many able-bodied children who were here, or young people who would have spoken. But who are the persons that you believe should speak up on behalf of children with special needs who are being bullied? Anybody? Yes, I see a hand to the back.
Everyone.
Everyone. All right. And how do you... Oh. So, yes, I'm coming to you, and then I'm going to ask how. Go ahead, my dear. Yes, yes.
So, I do share the point that everyone should speak up. First and foremost, I do believe that parents should be the first advocates for their children, especially.
All right, so I hope we're noting that parents should be the first point as advocates for their children. That's what you're... All right, cool. I love that. Any other suggestions in terms of who do we believe should really be the vanguards as it relates to representing students with special needs or children in general who are being bullied?
Recording in progress.
Any other pointers? Yes, I think I see a hand.
I think they should self-advocate for themselves.
Okay, all right. So how then? You see, I'm a how lady. You know. I hear the what? But how do you propose that they, you know, be able to do this? All right. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Marcelo. Go ahead, please.
But we also have to be mindful of the fact that not all persons with disabilities are able to speak for themselves.
All right.
So we also have to observe.
All right, so I like that point, because we do have persons, particularly those who are from the deaf community. How many of us in the room know JSL? See? Very few, and I'm glad we have an interpreter. But you know, on Friday I would have met with some students from the Listamaya Gilby, and they have a lot of challenges that they're faced with. But the thing is that who speaks for those who aren't able to do so? Right? So we definitely have to consider the persons, you know, persons with disability, particularly those who are deaf. Yes, Mr. Heron, and then I'll go to you, Gabby.
Thank you. We have to put systems in place that encourage persons to speak up. We have to put preventative measures in place that lets persons know that, look here, bullying or any kind of victimization is not allowed systematically. Our culture, many aspects of our culture, actually encourage that, and our systems, particularly in schools, they must have systems in place that discourages any form of victimization.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Heron. Go ahead, Gabby.
I also agree. I feel like, listen, I love the whole campaign. The youth have to speak up for themselves. It's up to the youth, and it's their future, and you're the future. I feel like at this point we're placing too much pressure on the youth to speak up when you're not creating the spaces to do so. I completely disagree with, I mean, yes, it would be wonderful if our children who had disabilities of any kind spoke up for themselves, but what about you? regardless of whether you're willing, you're completely able to do so. You see it happening. I don't see why we all can't just do our part in helping our peers, because naturally whether you believe it or not, we are our brother's keeper. And whether or not this person is able to represent themselves, we must take it upon ourselves to be able to represent for them and to be able to advocate for them. So definitely the parents have to be the first persons. Most cases you give birth to this child, why wouldn't you be bringing awareness to whatever issue they may be facing? Because their child, they don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that point. So we're hearing so far coming out from the discussion that systems need to be put in place, spaces need to be provided for persons to speak on issues concerning them. Go ahead, please, Bashibus. Or children's first, rather.
Okay. Okay, so I noticed that we keep saying parents. We have to be mindful of the fact that most time bullying is not done at home, and children often don't speak to their parents about these things. So for that reason, it has to be persons that are within their space that are observing what is happening to them.
So basically, then there needs to be an environment of trust within the home. That's what you're indicating at. All right, thanks so much. Yes, children's first, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. So firstly, as it relates to persons with special needs, I just want to highlight that speech is only one form of communication.
Right.
And so if we're speaking about persons with disabilities advocating for themselves, we can't limit it to just those who are vocal.
Right.
You mentioned sign language, that's one form of speech.
Got
Writing, I may not be able to speak, but I might be able to write. I might be able to use different signs, even if it's not sign language. And so there are ways that our non-verbal peers can self-advocate for themselves. And yes, like my friend said, it'd be great if everybody could self-advocate, but some persons are being bullied and don't even know that they're being bullied. How am I going to advocate for myself when I don't know what's happening? And so, yes, we want to encourage self-advocacy, and we want to encourage that assertiveness in our children, in our young persons, but we also need to understand that as adults, we have the responsibility of protecting our children. Our children don't have a responsibility of protecting themselves, and they don't have a responsibility of protecting us as adults. We're the ones who are supposed to protect them, and so parents have the first responsibility of advocating for children, and the teachers who they spend most of their time with also have a responsibility of advocating for them. And while we advocate for them, we teach them to advocate for themselves.
Love that, love that, love that. Thank you so much. I love the point that you made in terms of them identifying, are they being bullied? Because again, how do you report, how do you speak out about something if you don't know that you are, a victim of bullying? So I really love that point. And also the other represented, the underrepresented represented groups that definitely need to be a part of the discussion. I've noted that. Thank you. Yes, my dear, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, I was going to ask you to describe or give a description of children with disabilities, because yes, we're talking about children who are able to go to school. We also have children with cerebral palsy who can't move, can't talk, can't say anything, and we have persons who are abusing them, whether in the community or even in homes. So when we talk about parents, yes, it's all good, but can you just describe or broaden it then, where disabilities are concerned?
Oh, absolutely. It goes across the spectrum, irrespective of whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, and I think that is why the point about the parents or even guardians, just human beings in general, understanding, picking up on the cues. For example, you said it rightly in that for children with intellectual disabilities or so, how is it that they're able to communicate? They can't. But maybe in their behavior, their mannerism, their disposition, you being matlock, as they would call it, can cause us to acknowledge and to see and to pick up on some of these cues that we might ignore from time to time. I see your hand and then I see your hand. Go ahead, please. Yes. Mike, please. I think they're not hearing you.
So I just want to clarify as it relates to persons with intellectual disabilities.
Right.
There are different levels of intellectual disabilities. There's mild, there's moderate, and severe, and there's also profound. So we have to be careful. So not all persons with intellectual disability is unable to communicate. But as you said, rightly so, we have to look for the cues, and it goes right back to training, because even a lot of our professionals, even within the special needs space, are not adequately trained, right? So they are not able to pick up these cues when there's something that changed with the students, and parents themselves also. We find within our cohort, there are parents who are also have intellectual disabilities. And so they are not able to pick up certain things as well. So it goes back to training and education and really public awareness.
Love that. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Gabby.
I definitely agree, for sure. And I also think it's important to really emphasize the fact that communicating is not just vocal. Most times, our children with disabilities, it might be a different form of communication, but they are like, there has to be some form of communication, like the basic, anything is communication, the way in which they send messages, even if it's just a little cues. And that's why I also agree, education really is important, because I believe that as a parent, and I'm speaking, I'm not a parent, but I say as a parent because I've been parented, I think it's important to get to know your child. I know it's difficult, especially if your child may have some form of disability, because it's not as, I guess, common, or you may not know how, but it's very important to educate yourself so that you can raise your child in the best way possible, so that they understand themselves, understand their identity, and know how to socialize in a world that unfortunately is not catering to their particular needs. So,
thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, please. I think you have to press the button. Oh, it's not working.
No, once one is open, it won't open.
Okay. Okay. I want to come back to the discussion that we had when we started originally, and we spoke about the systems needed to be in place. And that is so true. We need to have our systems in place. But I want to just unpack that a little and look back at our systems, because we do have systems. One of our presenters spoke, and one of the things that she emphasized was that the systems, although they may be in place, they don't work because nothing happens. You report it and nothing happens. So I want to unpack that a little, and for us to look at it. What do we need to do in order to get our systems to work so that our children and the persons who are reporting can feel confident that something will be done when the reports are made? And so it's not just about the systems being in place, but the systems need to work. All right.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And we're making note of this as well, because you're so right. I don't believe that many persons see the need to report, because oftentimes, nothing is going to come out of it, or, yeah. So those things are definitely things that we definitely need to look into. Yes, Roxanne, go ahead, please.
In my days when I used to take the bus at the bus park, I found it disturbing how persons would be nonchalant about abuse that would take place. Because I would have taken bus where the 75 is, and we know that that road is going up to Papine, and that's where the schools are for persons with disability. And even at the bus park level, you would think that they would have had persons in place to assist these persons. They look and function well, but you can see intellectually, they know that this is where the bus is. But there are times when something like that, this bay, and the 75 goes around the other side, and they're standing where they're supposed to be because they're told so, and they're standing there, and I would see people just walking past. Like, you take the bus regularly, so you know who these persons are. Yeah. And you see them standing there, and you know that the 75 is no longer that big because something happened that morning, and no one would have. So I find that one of the things is that we have become so nonchalant about things, it is almost as if we're becoming very uncaring. And the persons with the different levels of disability is overlooked. And it's mostly because they either are not able to express themselves or unable to express themselves well enough. And so we move on to the persons who are louder. So because that person spoke loud enough, they got treated. But the persons who are not able to do so, we overlook them. And I think that is a responsibility for everyone, because I would be going to work very late. Because I couldn't just leave. There was this young man who used to walk on his hand, and I mean the bus park is full. And he's there. How could you not feel him at your foot? And people just walk past him going into the bus. Nobody stopped to say, let me put you on the bus. The JOTC persons didn't have someone in place to say, I mean, years later they did get about 2 persons to assist them. But I was taking the bus for years, and for years I noticed that people are just not looking out. So it's as if you're not loud enough, you're not heard. But as you say, the cues about the changes in behavior, them becoming isolated, them, because they all use their devices. If you notice that they're stop using their devices, if you notice that when they get the device and they're getting jittery, so every time a message comes in, look at these cues, look out for these type of things, because they're real things that's happening. If you also notice that, they used to have friends coming around, all of a sudden those friends are not coming around, and something is up. Yeah. Especially they're an outgoing, no matter the disability, they're outgoing, they have their own little personality. My sister is a part of the deaf community, and she's into dancing, she's into, I don't know what she's not into, but she's into everything. At one point, I believe she was a part of the youth parliament or something of the sort. But, I mean, how I noticed something was wrong is because of those things. She just was not doing anything else. She was just going to school and coming home. And it was years later, because I tried to ask her, but of course, they take a little while to accept. But she did come out and say, well, she was being bullied. When she was born, they had to wrap her head away to keep it, and she had a very flat forehead. And they would tease her, calling her Arawa, because but they said they used to flatten their foreheads for the thing so they used to tease her about those things. But I noticed it. And, I mean, she didn't express, but at least it was noticed that we tried. But at least noticing, try to notice, look for the cues. Even whether they're verbal or not, look for the cues. Every child is unique. And once that uniqueness shifts, then something needs to be identified.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So definitely fostering a culture of care. We definitely need that. I see your hand and then your hand. Go ahead.
One of the signs that we need to look out for as well is when this person suddenly becomes a bully themselves. And I think one of our presenters mentioned that, and it's something that we need to look out for. It is something that I have heard in interviews that I was bullied and I've decided to do it myself, and that is something that we need to look out for and to ensure that we are not just looking at the victim but also the perpetrator.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning. Could we broaden the discussion to look at our policymakers, to look at the adults in the room, those who have the opportunity to make a difference? And where I sit in the special needs population as a counselor, you'll find that these persons really do little in terms of the practical aspect, but you will have a lot of talk. And so even as we're here, I'm looking at their absence. Perhaps they should be here. And they should not be here to give greeting, but be here to listen. And to hear, like Keomar's song and Omar's own, and Monique's own experiences being told in an emotional way, rather than maybe receive a report at the end of this workshop. Okay. So I am saying, as we talk about bullying, that we need to engage those who sit at the gates of opportunity and tend to drive the policy and want to see change, and it comes down to us, and we're having this robust discussion, but it's going back to them, and what will happen after?
What I would probably want to also hear from you, because you're intimately involved with that population.
Yes.
We know definitely that from a policy standpoint that more can be done.
Sure.
However, I believe that change in itself starts with us, the individuals, because the government can put out any amount of policies there are, which is good. But how can we know? I want to hear from you. How do you think that us as Jamaicans can really come to a place where we understand the needs of these persons, and we seek out ways to, one, protect them, and also to advocate on their behalf in the event that they're unable to do so, because that's where we need to get to.
So if we get those policymakers and or other agencies that are under their own jurisdiction to become involved, where the discussions are held in the hallways, in the conference rooms, the boardrooms, and these are persons in this population that they are even given an opportunity to speak there.
Got you.
So we mentioned, I think one of our colleagues mentioned the bus park.
Yes.
So the bus park is a hub of activity.
Absolutely.
But there are a lot of, quite a lot of stakeholders come together to make it happen. In terms of, you have the security aspect, you have the management aspect, the operational aspect. How about if we have a discussion to include those vital stakeholders?
Right.
And let them not just hear from us as we are doing it, but hear from those who have experienced the bullying themselves.
Got you.
Would that make a difference? I want to think it would.
Okay.
So that would be my recommendation in this regard.
And those are the practical recommendations that because I think we're very much aware of a lot of the concerns, and yes, they need to be reiterated, but how can we move from a place now of the situation to being more solution oriented? And I love that point that you just made a while ago, because I think that will definitely move us to a different level in terms of becoming sensitized.
Yes.
I think over time we become desensitized by a lot of these things. I would just ignore it. Yes to you, and then we'll go to our next question. I'm like, oh, not talk though.
Sorry.
These are good
yes,
points coming
so
out.
Just to touch on a couple of things, I definitely think it starts with individual accountability.
Yes.
Absolutely, it definitely starts with us. Also, about the discussion point, frankly, I'm quite tired of talking. It's been 7 years since I started Bullyproof, and I started it to start the discussion.
Yes.
It's been 7 years. I'm not seeing much being done. Unfortunately, I still have to tell someone else who wants to start an anti-bullying organization that the same things that the ministers and whosoever is going to tell you in the meetings is the same thing they told me when I was younger. They thought I was naive, but here I am 7 years later. Nothing has been done. We're tired of talking. We need to start doing something. And guess what? We don't need to hear anyone talk either. We don't need our youth to come up and speak, because you very well know what's going on. We've been saying the same thing for decades and decades and generations and generations. When is it gonna click that it's time to do something? Are we gonna wait until finally we have a new generation in parliament and then they're still uneducated, they still don't know what to do? Like, no, I'm tired of talking. Let's cut to the chase. Next. I definitely agree with the point that ministers or whosoever in parliament, in government, just people in authority in general should listen to the people. Whoever is being oppressed, whoever is being discriminated against, whoever is being bullied, listen. I've been to so many events, so many conferences, so many summits in which they invite these people in authorities, in authority who can bring greetings, courtesy calls, this, that, instead of coming to listen. We don't need you here to tell us about all these different things and how this is a great initiative. We need you to do something. Get up and do something. And if you're doing something, or if you're trying to do something, be transparent with us so that we know that we're being heard. This whole thing, this whole Bullyproof started because I felt like I wasn't being heard. And it wasn't until I saw the CPFSA start their anti-bullying campaign and they started going into schools. We went to Randolph Lopez School of Hope, and I was exposed to a whole different demographic. Granted, it's not that I was unfamiliar, because I do have a sister who is of special needs. But it's nice to see that there is an organization and there are people out there who care. But if we are not actively engaging these people, then
So I
what
want
point
to
does it
see,
make?
Gabby, how does that engagement look like to you? Because I think we're at that stage right now where, to be honest, after all that has been said and done today, we are ready to move into that. But how do you see that translating now into that action that you're asking for? Because that's what we need right now. How do you see that translated into action? Or how do our response then will cause us to say, hey, something is happening? You know, what kind of action? What does it look like? That's what we want to know.
Okay. Can I go? At the back.
Who said that? Oh, go ahead, please.
Okay. So, I know, well, she said a lot of what I wanted to say before, but
Yes.
You see, the thing is, on the way we're going to tackle bullyism is if people actually know that what they're doing is bullying other persons.
Exactly.
Because the truth
Yes.
is, we live in a society where it happens every day. And most of these persons don't even realize or recognize that this is what they're doing. So first we have to educate them as what bullying is. So we need to go on the ground, go into the communities, go at the corner shop, everywhere that people are, that we can reach them. Yes, we might be sitting here, we're saying that this is what we need to do.
Yes.
Then we're going to go back to school, we're going to teach the children, and then we're going to hope that the children will go home and pass on this information to the parents, but it might not happen. So we have to take it to the streets.
Yes.
We have to do it ourselves and not hope that someone else is going to do it for us.
And that's what we want. To be honest, and I'm going to be really frank because I believe we're a family here. I hear the frustration coming from Gabby. I hear the frustration from my brother over that side and all the others who've spoken. But I think we've now gotten up to a place where we need to now realize, listen, this needs to happen. Yeah? Because we can, you know, express, and that's good, but we want, to be honest, I want solutions. How do we move from here? And as you rightly said, education is the way to go. Because a lot of things, change is not going to be immediate, but it's going to take a little time. But we have to be willing to work over time to make the change happen. And so I love the fact that we can get those education campaigns. I love the fact that the testimonials can happen. As a matter of fact, I really do believe that maybe some of this could be recorded and maybe posted with the consent of the persons here today. So people can really say, listen, you calling somebody, say them Morgan's favor string bean hurts. You telling somebody that them fat and them da-da-da-da-da, it hurts. You telling somebody that, oh, them ugly and them tough and them this and that, it hurts. So until we get to that stage, people are going to think that it's okay to do this. So that's where we need to get to at this point in time, the education, so people can realize that when you do it wrong and it needs to stop. All right, I want to quickly now move now. What do you think now? And I love the discussion so far.